Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started here. As we go through today, feel free to send in questions using the question and answer box. For the most part, I can see those as we go through, and I will be able to answer those. Some cases I may push it off to the end, but feel free to send anything in that way as we go through, and it will get answered either as the presentation goes or by the end. So today's webinar is talking about Nebula. It's sort of our introductory Nebula webinar. So we're not going to go super in depth on anything. Now, if you've already been using or experimenting with Nebula, you may have seen an email that was sent out Sunday night, Monday morning about changes that are coming to Nebula. So we are not going to go through those changes today. Today is just a basic introduction to Nebula. We will have 2 webinars next month. So if you can't make one, hopefully you can make the other, where we will go through those changes that are coming March 29th. But just to highlight what's going in there, we're finally adding support for the Usg Flex series of products. That will be coming in that March 29th update. We have a new work from home option that will let you basically be able to give an access point to an end user. It will automatically VPN back to the office where you can manage it, and all traffic connected to the SSIDs on it will be routed back into the office. So it's a seamless, easy way to be able to provide remote VPN access from people working at home without needing to worry about software or configuration or things like that. You just simply mail them or hand them an access point, and it takes care of everything else from there. And then we're calling what's called License 2.0. We're making some big changes to how the Nebula licensing works. So we'll go through those on those webinars. Some of the highlights, though, is Pro Pack license cost is going down. So the annual licenses are going to get cheaper. We no longer have different licenses for different types of products. There will simply be one Nebula license that applies to access points, switches, and gateways. And we're adding a new type of license called Plus that sort of sits between the free tier and the Pro Pack tier that we'll talk a little bit about later today. So if any of that sounds interesting, if you're using Nebula now, those are the webinars you want to join. So those will be coming in March. Email notifications will go out soon. So on to today's presentation, the introduction to Nebula. We'll talk a little bit about this. So to start with, this is everything that goes into installing and setting up a network. I'm not going to go through each of these bullet points independently, but this is your traditional effort and cost that goes into setting up a network in a new installation. So the idea behind Nebula is to simplify things, automate things, and reduce the amount of things that you need to buy. So you're saving time, you're saving effort, and you're saving money. So now we'll start going a little bit more in depth onto Nebula for you. So just a quick overview, Nebula is cloud managed networking. Basically, when you're using Nebula, you log into a website, nebula.zyxel.com, and it gives you the ability to manage all of your customers, all of their networks, all of their network devices, or at least all of their Zyxel network devices. So some of the cool things Nebula does here for you is it lets you set up without needing to unbox the product. Basically, you can log in at any point, start creating new customers and new sites in Nebula and configuring basics. Once you get the hardware shipped to you, you simply need to scan the QR code that's on the outside of the box and assign it to your customer and their site. And that's all you need to do physically with the device. You don't need to directly manage the device at any point. So you can have the product shipped to your office, scan it in, assign it to your customer, and then ship it to your customer and have it plugged in on site. And it'll automatically reach out to the network, internet, find out where it's supposed to be, update its firmware, update its configuration to match that customer's settings. The entire Nebula setup process has been optimized to make it super easy to get a basic network up and going. In less than 5 minutes, you can register for a Nebula account, set up an access point, set up a guest network page with a redirect or a captive portal, and have that going for you. So really easy to get the basics of your network set up and going. If you're using our Pro Pack gives you some options here for being able to clone existing sites and devices to simplify things even further for you. So Nebula requires no additional hardware or software. So no wireless LAN controllers, no CNA devices, no cloud keys, no software that needs to be set up on a virtual machine somewhere. Everything is handled directly from the hardware to the cloud. The agent is built in. There's nothing additional that you need. So once everything's been plugged in and turned on, you have the ability to manage all of your customers directly through the Nebula website or with our mobile app that works for iOS or Android. So some of the features here that Nebula gives you access to, easy guest access. We've got a lot of flexibility in how you do it. So whether you're providing guest access at a hotel, at a coffee shop, or just at an office building where you're giving guest access to visiting vendors or customers that come in, lots of options as far as captive portal goes. We've got a built-in default page. You can go in there and edit that page. If you need even more customization, you can download the HTML and CSS files and customize those and re-upload them to the cloud. We can have you point to a different website that you yourself host to be able to handle the captive portal. We have the ability to do login with Facebook accounts, create usernames and passwords to log in, just a simple terms of service agreement page. So all of this is included with Nebula. Really flexible, works on both wireless and on hardwired devices. On the wireless side of things, we have what's called Smart Mesh. So if you need to extend coverage but can't extend your Ethernet connection, you can simply provide power to different access points and they'll automatically be able to create a mesh to extend the network without needing a hard wire. We offer, of course, WPA2, WPA3 now with our Wi-Fi 6 access point security. The ability to integrate with a Radius server or a built-in cloud authentication server, so you can do authentication that way onto your wireless network. And we support all the major roaming and quick handoff standards automatically out of the box. On the switch side of things, we have intelligent PoE, the ability to allocate power based on actual demand, not just the classification of the PoE device. Various network protection options here. So we've got an ACL list, VLAN configuration, 802.1x authentication, loop guard, server guard, IGMP snooping, and the ability to basically virtually stack your switches. You simply go in there and all of your switches show up, all of the ports show up, making it easy to pass configuration changes on to multiple ports on multiple switches. So all the updates are done over the air. So there's no need to go onto a customer site to do firmware or configuration changes. Configuration changes are automatically pushed out every couple of minutes. So if you are used to configuring anything locally, generally you hit apply, the device reboots, and the new settings take effect. With Nebula, there may be a delay of a couple minutes between when you change something in the cloud and when the device itself updates. When it comes to firmware updates, you've got the ability to schedule those firmware updates based on date, based on time, based on the type of device. Individual devices, you can set up their own individual schedules. So there's a lot of flexibility there for things that may need a reboot and take the network offline. So it can be automatically applied without you needing to be up and awake to do it. On the security gateway size of things, we make VPN configuration really easy. So if you're doing site-to-site VPN, you simply choose the sites you want to mesh together, you choose the topology you want to use, and we handle all of the complex configuration. For remote users, we support L2TP over IPsec, and we have the ability to email out to the end user a script that will automatically configure the VPN to be able to connect directly back into the office. That works with Windows, Macintosh, and iOS devices. So Nebula has been designed from the ground up. So you have one website you go to, one login that you need, and you're able to manage all of your customers and all of their sites through that interface. You don't have to keep track of different VPN settings or port forwards to be able to access what's going on your customer networks. So this is the view you see here. You choose your customer. In this case, this customer's got a lot of different sites. So you can see all the sites there and get a quick snapshot of what's going on those sites. And then when you drill in, you get taken to a customizable dashboard here. So the dashboard gives you a view of a lot of different stuff that's going on the network for a quick glance. So you can see, what applications are using bandwidth, which users are using bandwidth, your PoE utilization versus your budget, how many wireless client devices there are, if any devices are currently offline. So that's all there for you. And a lot of this is customizable, so you see what you want to see. On the left here, you can choose the different type of device or setting you want to change. And we've got drop-down menus on the top here to make it really easy to jump between different sites or different customers without having to back out and start over again. So this is our Wi-Fi view. This is showing you your Wi-Fi clients. You can see here again, this is customizable about what information is displayed here. And we also have the ability to change the time window we're looking at, but you can see currently connected devices are highlighted in green. Those that were connected during this time window but are not currently are highlighted in red. You can see the device type, the device name, IP address, MAC address, which SSID it's connected to, which channel it's connected to, signal strength, all sorts of information to help you diagnose and troubleshoot information on your network or just understand what's going on. Same sort of view here on the AP side of things, giving you a summary of what's going on the network. As you can see here, you can load in a floor plan and then drag and drop the individual devices onto that floor plan so you can have sort of a visual representation of where they are on your customer's network. Also handy if for some reason you do have to go on site and physically adjust a device, makes it easy for your remote workers to see that. On the switch side of things, we've got all sorts of information on the individual ports. You can see the ports are colored in versus gray if they've got something plugged into them. Green versus orange, letting you know if the connection is I believe it's gigabit versus 100 megabit connection, and also an indication of whether PoE is being utilized, data utilization over time. And then on the configuration side of things, we make it really easy for you to configure multiple settings on multiple ports. You'll be able to see all of the ports. You highlight the ports you want to change. Up pops this screen here, and you can go in and change VLANs and other settings like that and automatically apply them across those ports and across different switches. And pretty much everything I've talked about up to this point is covered in the free version of Nebula. So you can use Nebula to manage your sites and your customers. There is no mandatory fee or license required to be able to do that. We do at the moment offer something called Pro Pack, which unlocks some additional features for you, which you can subscribe to. And then again, coming up at the end of March, we'll be launching a new Plus level, which unlocks some different features. So when you're looking at Nebula products on our website or on the data sheet, you will see products mentioning Nebula Flex or Nebula Flex Pro. So a device that labels itself as Nebula Flex gives you the option of managing the device, either traditional by directly accessing it via the IP address and logging into a GUI or CLI, or gives you the option of managing it in the Nebula cloud. So that applies at the moment to access points and our switches. You will also see on the AP and switch side of things something called Nebula Flex Pro. If a device is Nebula Flex Pro, it includes 1 year of professional pack license bundled with it out of the box. In the case of access points, it also unlocks the ability to use controllers to manage those devices. And you are not locked into one of these or the other at any point. If you need to move the equipment from one customer to another, say you're taking it from a customer you're managing directly to a customer that's managed in the cloud, you can switch the device over to Nebula. And at some point you decide to take it off that customer site and move it to a site that doesn't use Nebula, you can automatically switch it back over to traditional standalone management mode. Only trick here is the configuration between Nebula and standalone does not transfer back and forth. So you will need to reconfigure the device in the case of going from Nebula back to standalone. So the process of doing it, switching between standalone and Nebula, is really simple. In the case of moving it into Nebula, you simply log into your Nebula account and register the device in the cloud. And within 2 to 5 minutes, the device will automatically reboot into Nebula mode. And it's a similar process for taking it out of Nebula. You simply unregister the device, pull it out of your inventory in Nebula, and it'll automatically reboot itself back in standalone mode. So nothing hard there, no need to directly configure the device to switch modes. So when it comes to Nebula support, this is most of the Nebula supported APs. We've still got some other models that are available but being phased out later this year. Just about everything here nowadays supports Nebula Flex or Nebula Flex Pro, from our cheap little $89 access point here all the way up to our $650 flagship Wi-Fi 6 access point. On the switch side of things, any of our GS1920 V2s support Nebula Flex. Our XGS1930 series, our XS1930 series, XS3800 series, GS2220 series, and the GS13 series, these all support Nebula management. So let's talk a little bit about Nebula Pro Pack. For the most part, I don't think anything that we're talking about today is going to change on March 29th. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. So Pro Pack unlocks additional granular control options for you, gives you access to more admin accounts for more of your admin users or IT guys that you have, so they each have their own account. It gives you additional network information. We store a year's worth of logs and a year's worth of an audit trail where we track every configuration change and who made it. So you can keep an eye on those to help you when it comes to troubleshooting things or finding out, who configured it and why they configured it that way. The ability to use templates to be able to help synchronize changes across multiple sites, and some advanced user management functionality. So for instance, if you don't want to set up your own Radius server, we have a cloud server you can use for most Radius type functions that can store an unlimited number of users there. We give you some advanced access to wireless stuff, wireless reporting, machine learning to automatically configure wireless for you, um, unlock some additional guest access functionality, and adding a new feature that we call DPPSK. So traditionally, if you have different types of users that need to be on different VLANs, you set up a different SSID for each of those users, and you give each user a username and password. In the case of dynamic pre-shared key, everybody uses the same SSID. And instead, what you do is you give different types of users or different individual users their own unique password, but not a username that needs to be typed in. It's just the simple password key that they use on any wireless device to connect to the network. And based on that pre-shared key, we'll automatically stick them in the appropriate VLAN for them. So it's a really nice feature that people like. It's less finicky than 802.1x authentication, while still giving you the flexibility of making sure each of your users has their own unique password. So if somebody leaves, you can easily lock them out of the network without causing hassle for other users. Our machine learning and monitoring here basically tracks the wireless network, looks at the performance of individual clients over a period of time and sees which ones are having issues. And then we can make some different actions here automatically using AI, such as changing channel, signal strength, things like that, which access point the user is connecting to try to optimize that wireless experience without requiring you to manually do anything. For guest access, even the free version of Nebula has the ability to do a Facebook login to provide guest access. With ProPack, we have the ability to use what's called Facebook Wi-Fi, which is a specific program that Facebook offers for small businesses, where basically a guest needs to log in with their Facebook account to get access. Um, and then they need to like your page and share that they've logged in or signed into your location. And there's a bunch of additional information that is gathered and shared with the Facebook account owner about which users are logging in and giving you some access to who's been logging into your network that isn't there with the free version. On the switch side of things, we unlock um, additional IGMP settings, um, automatic VLAN configuration where you can set up VLANs to be assigned based on basically the first few digits of a device's MAC address. So that way, basically, for devices such as VoIP phones, which you need to have on their own VoIP VLAN, but don't have a web interface to log in and authenticate with, if you know those first set of MAC address, first digits in that MAC address for those phones, basically it will be able to automatically recognize, hey, that's a phone, it needs to be on this VLAN, and move them to that voice VLAN. And you can use it for some other stuff as well. Cameras is another popular one that people use this feature for. Um, We have the ability with the 1350 switches to basically ping a device that's connected to the network. And if that device goes offline, we can power cycle the PoE to the port. So again, something that's used a lot on cameras, but can be used on other PoE-enabled devices to reboot them if for some reason they go offline or freeze. If you're doing IPTV, particularly in the MXU space, the MDU space, we have additional IPTV reporting that we can do. We unlock additional feature settings that you can change, and we give you reports that give you suggestions for things that you can do to improve IPTV experience. And on the security gateway side of things, it gives you access to a lot more alerts, remote tools, um, more granular firmware scheduling, things like that. We automatically generate a topology view to help you with troubleshooting so you can see which devices are plugged into which other devices. So we haven't talked about it now before, but on the gateway side of things, we've long had the NSG series as our Nebula Gateway. Again, coming up here at the end of March, the USG Flexes will be manageable with Nebula. And at some point, hopefully this year, the the ATP series products will as well. But USG Flex for sure will be available come March. On the security gateway side of things, we do have a separate license for the UTM features. So all of our gateway products will come with 1 year of Pro Pack out of the box and 1 year of the network security services. So that's unlocking for you gateway-based antivirus, content filtering, including HTTPS encrypted sites, application intelligence, the ability to get reports that break down what's going on based on individual applications and create firewall rules based on applications, intrusion detection and prevention, and our analytic tools and reports, which generate various types of reports to help you visualize what these services have been doing. And these are a great tool for you to use for your customers. So you can show them what's been going on their network, which attacks have been blocked, which sites have been blocked. So you can educate your customer on why they should renew those UTM services and what benefits they've had. These reports can be automatically generated and emailed to your customer and branded with your logo, so you can keep them aware of what's going on. So a quick summary of Nebula here for you gives you a centralized and unified ability to manage your customers and manage your devices in the field all through a single pane of glass, through basically any device that has access to a web browser or through our mobile apps. Zero touch provisioning. Basically, everything is plug and play. You simply assign the device to your customer and to their site, and then all they need to do is plug in that device and it'll automatically update firmware and download configuration. Nothing additional is needed to manage these devices. The basic base form of Nebula is free. That free version has no limits on the number of devices, number of customers, or number of sites that you manage with it. And then we give you the option to upgrade to advanced features using our Pro Pack license. And come the end of March, also a Plus license, cheaper one there for you as well. If you guys want to play around with it at any point, you can simply go to nebula.zyxel.com. There is on the screen, you will see it when you go to that website, a demo account that you can log in with, which is a real live multi-site there that you can log into and see what's going on. Also, reach out to your salesperson. If you're one of our partners, you can reach out to Jacob or David Chen, and you can ask them for a 60-day demo kit that you can try out personally yourself. And with that, guys, that is today's presentation. That was it. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in using that Q&A box. You can email me directly. My email's up there on the screen. For those of you listening in, it's Sean R, SHAWNR at Zyxel.com. Feel free to ask me questions, give me feedback, give me suggestions for types of webinars you would like to see us produce going forward that you would find valuable for yourself or your employees. And then again, be sure to join our March Nebula webinars towards the end of the month, next month, where we'll go through these new changes that are coming to Nebula, specifically focused on the changes to the licensing, what's going to happen to the base version, what does this new Plus license get you, changes to Pro Pack, this new work from home ability, a new MSP bundle that we're including. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming. So when we get a little bit closer to when that launches, we will have 2 different webinars, same topic, but different times. So hopefully if you can't join one, you can join the other. And then as always, the webinars will be recorded and posted to our YouTube page. So you can always watch them at any time or share them with other people. Okay, guys, I haven't gotten any questions in, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. If something does pop up, feel free to reach out to me or work with Jacob or David, and they can get you the answers you need as well. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in today.